Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Rational Investors Daily Brief. This is Brian here, back in the saddle. And actually, we've got Thomas here this morning, totally rocking and roll. We got Sjord here this morning. We've got Shane here this morning. A whole bunch of people to talk to you, good people. So hopefully everybody got a good hour and a half dose of Brian's broiler chickens offering yesterday. So you probably heard enough from Brian. Without further ado, might as well just get this thing going. Alex, unfortunately, said that he locked himself out of his house and he has to go find a house key. So he won't be here today, but everybody mentally wish Alex good luck in getting back into his home. But anyway, we do have Thomas here this morning. Where's Thomas? There he is. How you doing this morning, sir?
Hey, pretty good. How's life back in the saddle?
Oh, it's all right. Fighting with silly birds outside my window, waking me up at 4 o'clock in the morning. But
Bitcoin trader yells at birds.
Something like that. If I'm not mistaken, I think Sjord, we interrupted his dinner. So why don't we start with Sjord's report, and then he can get back to his dinner before his soup gets cold. So how you doing this morning, Sjord?
Hey, thank you. I'm doing wonderful, and I just finished my soup. I'm the next meat of next how do you call it round is the actual meat and potatoes. So
All
that's
right.
why I joined the dinner, right?
Well, we certainly don't want you to miss your meat and potatoes. So let's just make sure we're making you presenting. Yep, looks like you're presenting to everybody, so everybody sees Sjord's handsome face. Such a good-looking guy.
I need to shave now. I'm watching myself in the webcam. I should do that more often.
Yeah, well, you're growing up. So. All right. What do you want to tell these good people? I've seen you've been really working hard on the website and code and stuff. So what's on your mind here this morning, sir? This is your moment to shine.
Yeah, so a quick update of what we did last week. A lot of stuff, basically. What we did, we have a lot of issues with PayPal. And one of those issues is that PayPal locked one of our accounts. And what that basically means is that we don't receive any funds anymore from one of our two PayPal accounts. And that also means that members that are renewing on our old PayPal, basically those memberships aren't set to valid on our website. So that gives a lot of headache. That's also causing a bit of extra stress on the support department for Julian. So Julian and I have been working on that the past week just to make sure that everyone keeps the site access. I created some reporting for Julian as well, so that he can more easily see stuff, who's enrolled in which levels and all that. And our new flow, we made some optimizations for the free trial. So people are now, it's now easier for them to join our website. Something that's not live yet, but that we're working on as well is what you see on my screen. So just to co-op with PayPal, we're also introducing soon that coin payments. We're finishing the testing phase for that for renewals. So then every member can just pay with LTC or BTC or something else, and we can skip PayPal altogether. So that's nice and something that's in the pipeline. And another thing that was a bit of a headache is that sometimes the database connection dropped for members. So then the website wasn't responsive or the payment didn't come through, something like that. We did a lot of logging, and eventually, as it turns out, for the DevOps in here, that we are suffering of some package loss from our web server to the database server, and that's an ongoing process of fixing. But I have good hopes that we fix that this week as well. And you shouldn't really notice a lot of it, but sometimes we saw some package loss, which was causing queries not to run. So that was a fun week. Of mostly keeping the site up and making sure that all you guys still have access. And I'm so happy just to hear Brian's voice again. Makes me so happy every morning. So really awesome, and a shout out to Brian for the Boiler Chicken show yesterday. Really enjoyed watching that as well.
Well, that's good. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and what I really liked was at between the 6 and 7 minutes, you gave yourself the target of a 1 hour Boiler Chicken show.
Yeah, no America.
Let's see how that turns out.
I was still over. And
Uh,
I
but
noticed
it was,
right at the end, this is what I hate is that people go, "Oh, but take a look at this one. Oh no, no, look at this one. Oh, can you look at this one?" You know, I could. You know, the weird thing is if I just give myself to the audience, I know Alicia and Colleen, they want me to be here for 3 or 4 hours ago.
yeah, and with a 2 weeks of little vacation, there's so much to talk about, right? I mean, you could really see that these people missed you as well. So shout out that you're back in the saddle. Really happy with that. And next week, I hope that I don't have to report about any bugs and side issues, but that I can show you that coin payments is live, for example.
Yeah,
So
we could
keep an eye
literally
on that.
we could literally just hire a person just to have to deal with PayPal. This is such a headache. It's remarkable. So
Yeah.
it's a little disappointing, but welcome to running a small business on the internet.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you so much for your dogged determination and consistency and reliability. At the very least, everybody who's listening to this broadcast, you know that Sjord and Julian are absolutely determined. You know, and that's one thing I really like about Julian is he has just sort of a mental policy that he gets back to every support ticket within like a day, which is rare in this world. We almost take it for granted that we get instant replies. So, thank you very much, Julian. If you are watching this later, thank you, and all of you guys. Well, in my absence, you guys all picked up the ball, and I think I even heard somebody saying 1 + 1, equals 3 kind of reference, and it's really great to see everybody here at the site just trying to work together to make this a better place. So really good. So thank you, sir, and good luck on the projects this week. And hopefully next Monday we can report a whole bunch of new candy people can look at. All right, I will let you get back to your meat and potatoes. Thank you very much for the update, sir. Appreciate that. And of course, when we have Thomas here, it makes my life a heck of a lot easier. So, Thomas, where should we go today? What do you feel like looking at?
I don't know. Should we go talk about trade war again for the umpteenth time in 2 weeks?
I suppose, did you talk about it quite a bit while I was gone?
I mean, it was probably the only thing in the news headlines, so I think we had to spend some time discussing it. And I guess today is no different with some of these headlines. When did this Huawei thing happen? I don't know if this was over the weekend or if it was Friday, but basically Trump came out and said that if you're in the US and you're a company here that does business with Huawei, you better cut your ties because we're not going to let you do business with them easily. So their stock got hit here. And there's a lot of, oh man, this is like a real complicated mess because they produce a lot of technology in not only the 5G space, but also throughout, they produce some technology for mobile phones, computers, whatever it may be, they're producing this stuff cheap. So one of the stocks that I was looking at was Xilinx, and that one took a beating here. They banned basically, or the US basically came out and said, hey, any 5G tech that's coming out of China, we're not allowing it to be used here in the US. So all of a sudden, not only did Xilinx take a beating, this is the chart right here. You can see ABCD ideas. We tested 38.2 on the way down. And it's interesting, once that trade war got announced about 10 days ago, this thing gapped lower. We've really been on our way down ever since then. So ABCDs are kind of in the realm of Mountain Man. There's a little gap down here, but this thing's getting toward the oversold conditions, not quite in there just yet, and building up a bullish divergence. And again, this is only potential. This thing could just lose its lows, but I don't know, maybe we're setting up in an environment where all these things come off, and then, in best case scenario, you get Trump to come out and say, yeah, we've kind of figured out a trade deal here and we can resume business as usual. But, kind of like what I talked about last week, where you have President Xi, who could clearly outlast President Trump in an all-out trade war, where Trump has to worry about getting reelected and seeing too much damage done to the stock market, where he would have to come out and sort of reverse his rhetoric and either come up with a deal in order to get reelected, or his other plan here is to force the Federal Reserve to start cutting interest rates in a way that we've really never seen here in the U.S. And I mean, this is a really unique environment, but the problem here is that now you have all these companies in the US who are like, okay, we've had this access to cheap goods, cheap manufacturing, cheap labor in China for so long. How do we assess the sincerity and the longevity of this potential trade war? Should we start restructuring our businesses to be looking to move out of China, which is what Trump wants and has recommended to people to do? And you start to see things like laws being made to make it easier for businesses that used to operate in China to move their operations. For instance, today, we saw that there was some positive information coming out of a Sprint and T-Mobile merger. For the longest time, this kept getting denied. This is, a monopoly. This is, not something that was to be approved. And now in the face of these trade wars and, potential technology rollbacks where, again, we're not going to be using Chinese technology, suddenly you're looking at an environment where these kinds of mergers are actually going to be beneficial to the US, because you're going to have two, I wouldn't call them heavyweights, but put together, they're like kind of, what do you call them? The AAA teams, if you're into baseball, of the MLB that compete with sort of Verizon and AT&T in the bigger competition. So these two.
I might not be showing the right screen. I thought I was. Is that a little better, Rares? Thank you for reminding me there. Sorry, Thomas, didn't mean to interrupt. Somebody.
That's okay. Yeah,
remember, I'm just sort of back in the saddle here, so I'm going to be a little bit sloppy.
No worries. So, we could take a look at like a Sprint and a T-Mobile stock, and I'm sure it's a little late to be buying these things, but Sprint sure got hammered over the course of the last few months on the way down here. This is a 4-hour chart, but you can see this thing gapped higher on the news today that this merger might actually go through. But hey, look what this thing was doing ever since October 2018. This thing's just going sideways to down. And then today we've broken out violently from $6 all the way up to $7.50, $7.68. This is like great news here as the market's interpreting it, that, hey, US companies aren't actually going to be, or a US company like Sprint isn't actually the dog that everybody thinks it is in the face of this trade war. So again, like we talked about last week, you want to be looking for these names. And I don't know how you would have seen this, but I guess presumably we could have anticipated that 5G technology was going to be something that would be targeted by the US. Like, hey, we don't want this kind of stuff put into our networks because, kind of along the lines of the same thinking as the Xilinx tech and the Huawei phones being banned from here, that there may be spyware and the Chinese government's trying to figure out what US companies are doing. And that stuff was banned. So it kind of makes sense that they would ban the new 5G tech that's coming out of China to encourage US companies to take advantage of, hey, build your own damn thing and bring it here. So however that space is going to unfold. But as far as trade ideas, right, this is just, nosebleed stuff. I don't know if chasing here is a good idea because, again, all it takes is one stupid tweet and this thing face plants back down and all the technology is allowed back into the country. Do I think that's going to happen?
Don't chase.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That was the rhetoric from last week, and that hasn't changed whether we're looking at stock markets or even crypto. But this is getting really wild. There's a lot of earnings this week. I talked last week that I was really interested in doing a couple of things, and that was, I believe the first one was I was looking at shorting railroads. So I think I did fire off a short on this CSX here. And so far, we've got this bear div coming in here. This is confirmed. And we've got market structure coming in. The thing is, I just need this thing to dump at this point. So I bought myself a couple months of time. This is not an SOF play, but this is kind of a glimpse into what I'm doing. And, this thing looks like it could break, but it's going sideways for now. Underlying weakness, I'd like to see this come through. So this is one of my positions. I'm going to be holding steady here. If we were to break higher and break to new highs, I got to get out of the position. No problem there. Other things that I'm doing include, what the hell are the other positions? I got to load up my thing. All right, well, you know what we should do? Let's look at the stock market here before we jump into those specific names. Dow Jones down about 30 points. I put these ghost candles in here just to kind of give an idea of what I would expect out of these markets. I was looking, everyone's looking at the market last week and they're thinking, okay, trade wars resolved. This isn't so bad. The market's digested this news in a positive light. I think this was a sucker's rally here. I was talking about Thursday that I wanted to fire off an S&P short expressed through buying puts. I didn't get a chance to get filled on those, so I've been left out here. This thing does go up a little bit higher. I will probably get my fill. Oh, this is the Dow, sorry. But nonetheless, here you can see this rally just did nothing more than kind of fill in the gap and tag the 13 EMA. So to me, this rally sucks. This isn't really what you want to see. The bulls really need to step up and say, hey, we're back to play, and this trade war doesn't affect us. What I see out of this market today is that this is bad. Like the bounce here just hasn't come in. There's really no bullish divergences at all in play here. This just looks like it's going to continue its trajectory downward. So I'm looking for ideas like this. If we were to sort of, muddle along sideways to up, if we were to tag Mountain Man, ABCDs down into the higher range, 38.2 from the Christmas crash that we saw in December 2018. Maybe we come back down here and then we reassess, what does the market look like? What's the Federal Reserve doing? And that's another thing that we need to look at really quickly, is that the economic calendar for the new, as far as what we can expect out of the economy this week. Wednesday, we have Fed minutes coming out. So that's going to affect these markets tremendously, depending on what the Fed's looking at and how they plan on announcing their sort of prospectus for the coming months. You can see 2 p.m. Wednesday, FOMC minutes. Are they going to talk about, cutting rates? Are they going to look at raising rates? Are they going to talk about balance sheet operations? I think the market's sort of on pause right now. If the Fed's like, we're closely monitoring and we're data dependent, kind of like Brian said the last meeting, I don't know if the market's going to like that sort of standoffish policy anymore. I think the markets really want to see the Fed come in and say, we're really concerned by the way that things look right now. We're seeing underlying weakness, which I don't think they're going to say after we got such a great jobs report. Interestingly, around the world, I think we saw Japan's numbers come in really good this morning. So they were, where are these things? Forecast was up 4.4, actual 0.4 industrial. Maybe it was last week's numbers in Japan, but something came out of Japan that was pretty favorable. And as far as Europe, up 2.4% on, that's not really interesting. But hey, well, what you're all looking for is Wednesday, right? The market's kind of on pause here. I wouldn't expect any serious movements here unless Trump comes out with some more crazy talk to move the market. But I think everyone's going to take their cues for how the Federal Reserve plans to act in the face of this trade war. Do they want to sort of insulate the market from potential downward moves? And that's not really the job of the Federal Reserve. But with a bully like Donald Trump, maybe you see him invite Chairman Powell over for dinner the day before the minutes, and then something's up. But I think it's a little too early in the game here. I don't think Trump is prepared to fold his cards against China, and I don't think that this move down in the stock market has been enough to make him really feel the pain, sort of put the pressure on the people around him. So there you go. That's the rhetoric trade war. We can shut up about that. Let's take a look at the S&P. Probably the same thing here as the Dow, just like, slowly trying to figure out which way it's going. This rally, again, same deal. Didn't quite get what we were looking for. This was more of a mountain man move on, what was this, Thursday. So we tagged 61.8 to the upside, and today we're coming off a bit. Futures were down a lot more at the opening of the market, and now we're sort of playing between these two levels here. You've got your mountain man and your 50%. This isn't, it's tight 38.2 ping pong. I think we're just kind of filling in this volume profile gap for now and waiting for the next movement. So I think we're sort of on pause to sideways for the next 2 days until Wednesday afternoon, and then the market's going to resume what's going on. As far as what's going on in China, same thing, tag 38.2, bounce back off. I think the underlying weakness here in China is much worse than it is in the US, right? These tariffs are not only affecting the US, but they're also going to affect China. And both countries here are suffering. So we'll see how that continues to unfold Wednesday. Now, the dollar is interesting. I would expect, this movement is also going to be determined by FOMC, but I still think there should be underlying strength in the dollar. The idea that dollars are sort of a scarce commodity in this sort of environment is the sort of idea of 2019 among several of the the smarter guys that have podcasts, and their idea of the milkshake theory, like Brent Johnson milkshake idea, where there's just a shortage of dollars and there's going to eventually need to be a point in time where this thing breaks above 98.5 and continues to rally higher. Are we there just yet? I think that all depends on how these trade wars resolve, right? There were some rumblings about China selling off US treasuries and how that would affect these markets. I think that's still being digested as well, but interesting times that are happening right now as far as taking trade.
I think the Americans would actually like for the Chinese to dump US treasuries, and that'll get the yield curve out of danger zone here.
Oh, that's an interesting point. Yeah, so I mean, if we bring up the yield curve here, hang on a sec. Here we go. Yeah, so right, the 2s, the 5s, and I guess the 10s aren't really there yet, but the 2s and 5s have inverted. So if the Chinese are selling treasuries here, that'll bring this yield back up, right? And then this would be...
Well, you can see on my chart here, and yeah, I haven't screen shared, sorry guys. But you can see the yields are trying to put in little W's here. And the 3-month Fed funds was actually higher than the 10 years last week. So ironically enough, the Americans are like, you want to dump treasuries? Go ahead, dump treasuries. That'll get the yields back up, and yield curve will get out of danger.
That's fascinating, isn't it?
Ironic, and I'm sure the Chinese know that. They're probably sitting there going, yeah, this probably isn't the best time for us to play this card.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to play the cards when your opponent is vulnerable. All right, back to Thomas's story. If I see something of interest to me, I'll chime in, but I think you're doing a great job, sir.
Thanks, man. All right, so the other thing that I want to check in on is our euro-dollar futures, right? I was talking about this and how I like to use it for what the Fed might potentially be doing, right? This really has nothing to do with what the Fed is actually planning to do. It's just a market where a whole bunch of people are taking in what they see around the world, in the US, and they're making bets on it, right? This is no different than any other market. It's just a bunch of participants that are like, okay, given what we see in the market, right now we're expecting, it looks like close to 2 cuts at this point. We're sitting negative 0.39, so you figure this is closer to 0.5. So, the market's pricing in 2 cuts, but again, this is a June 2019 to June 2020 contract. So between next month and next month,
you want to roll out to September's, because that June contract is actually in first notice date now. So you probably don't really want to watch that close anymore.
Yeah, you're right. That'll eventually get rolled. But I mean, the point to take away from this is just that between now and 2020, we're looking at some cuts. I mean, can you imagine what can happen between now and then? I don't think this is that far out of line. So, I mean, it's just something interesting to keep in the back of your minds and take a sort of to remind you as to what might be happening behind the scenes and what the real participants in the market are thinking is going to happen over the next year. So eventually I'm going to move that.
What it means to me is, because keep in mind, all this is the money market, right?
Yeah.
So what this is saying to me is, you need money in the short term, it's going to cost you more. You need money in the longer term, a year out, it's going to cost you less, right? So, well, I mean, I think I agree with you. It feels like the market believes that the Fed funds have been, maybe they've taken them a little too far. It'd be really interesting to see if we break those lows.
Yeah, right. That's a good point here. But we pivoted off of a key low here. We hadn't made new lows in this market, and
Yeah,
well,
the thing is the econs are still relatively robust, especially those jobs numbers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So this is probably, and also too, I think I heard late last week, Trump's starting to saber rattle about the European and the Japanese auto manufacturers. He also made peace with with the Canadians and the Mexicans with regard to the aluminum tariffs. So there's lots of moving parts here, but I thought it was interesting. Last week I saw that the board of directors of Toyota Motor Company sent a very nasty letter to the White House saying, "Look, we played ball. We invested a whole shitload of money in the U.S. market. You're now actually starting to jeopardize these people's jobs because they do have like 10 manufacturing plants in the United States." So I get the feeling that Mr. Trump sort of played his card with the tariffs kind of idea, and now he's actually backing away a little bit. And also, too, you made the point about how we're now coming into an election cycle. So if he really needs to dodge this Mueller report, he has to get reelected. So now he has to start thinking about, okay, what's actually going to buy me votes. So it was interesting to hear that he sort of made peace with the Canadians and the Mexicans. And he even threw a bone to the Europeans and the Japanese last week with the auto tariff talk. So he's ratcheting up the temperature against the Chinese. And the interesting thing is, I think he actually can buy a lot of votes sort of going to war with the Chinese. But it was really interesting to see how he backed away when Toyota started to really shit on him. Like they invested something like $10 billion in manufacturing plants in the United States. And they're like, careful, sir, because we're starting to seriously think about shutting these plants down. And that would be really bad for Trump if that happened, in my opinion. So,
yeah. No, I mean, it's...
Continue with your story. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it was a great segue. I want to continue from what you were talking about, where he made peace with Canada and Mexico as far as aluminum, but he also made peace with them as far as tariff penalties on agricultural products. So it's like, hey, we're going to screw over China, but we need to still get our products. So let's take off any kind of, tariffs on China and Mexico. And I don't really read this guy's tweets that often.
Mexico, you mean?
Sorry.
You just said China and Mexico, that's all.
Oh, whoops. Sorry. Yeah, Canada and Mexico. Chinese of Canada. There was one other tweet that I saw. I can't believe how much this freaking guy tweets. I mean, God, does he just like always on this fucking thing? It's incredible.
Do they call him Twitter in Chief?
He really is.
That's his name, Twitter in Chief.
Yeah. Well, there was something he tweeted out about Iran, and there was a point that I wanted to make about that where he basically said, don't fuck with the US. We're going to we're going to squash Iran, something along those lines. And that was like, okay, dude, what are you up to? We already sent a whole bunch of forces over there. And what better play to pull out of the Republican playbook than let's go to war against Iran? I mean, good God. Just before an election, wartime President Trump, I mean, that would pretty much guarantee his election is to manufacture a war against, Iran and call it whatever he needs to do. And oh God, I can just see this thing unfolding right now from where we're at. But I think he's got his hands full as far as China's concerned to really try to dip his hands into the Iran situation.
I think Dan just found your tweet that you were looking for. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate
Oh
it.
yeah, thank you.
And if I'm not mistaken, Dan, are you guys over in Eastern Europe having a TRI meetup relatively soon? I think I saw somebody saying something along those lines. So I don't know whether you're planning on participating, but I did see something around the site about that. If anybody who's sort of in Eastern Europe that is part of that meetup, I don't know. Alex B, are you still in Eastern Europe, or are you now down in South America now? Yeah, I thought I saw maybe touch base with Alex R. We can maybe do an update. I did see something about people wanted to put something together. Yeah, and that's what it is. Bratislava. What a cool name. All right, sorry to interrupt, but if either of you guys or anybody else, I know Leduc is over there as well. And of course, Alex will be on probably tomorrow and the next day. We'll do an update on what's going on there. And then also, to all you UKers, I hear there's a UK meetup happening relatively soon. So if you guys wanted to do a shout out update on that, somebody, Jamie, if you're listening, or Raf sent me a note this morning saying, if anybody wants a moment just to talk about the meetup in UK, you've got the floor. Just let me know. All right, I'll go back on mute. Continue on, sir. You're doing a great job.
Thanks. I think we're kind of winding down here. A couple more things that I was paying attention to was the VIX. I closed out my call position, as I mentioned last week. I was really looking to get back into this on Friday. I had bids working on call. I had some calls working that I was looking to get filled on. And, I swear, like the second I put the bid in, the VIX started going back up again. So I missed my fill. I'm still looking to get in on this. I like the idea of sort of reload zone ideas. I'm not sure, short any kind of terrible news coming out. I think we're kind of range bound here on the VIX. It was, again, fascinating to watch last week as the stock market was down like 600 points. The VIX did not spike to new highs on Monday, the 13th. So that was sort of your cue that things were unwinding a bit, and maybe the whole the narrative that things are in big trouble sort of simmered down a bit as far as big stock market sell-offs. But I think things are still being digested, and I don't think they're going to be digested in a positive light as this stuff continues to get worse. The whole selling.
I mean, just a rule of thumb, everybody, and this is stockbroker Brian talking. We don't usually see a seasonal bottom that comes in on the stock market till that July 4th weekend. So I really wouldn't be expecting a heck of a lot out of the stock market until the latter part of June. There's just no hurry over the next month.
Yeah. So that's that. Interestingly, I think Verizon's going to end up doing, quite well. I think most of these cell phone companies like Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, they all seem to be getting a bid here. I like Verizon a lot. When it gaps
higher like that, though, and creates that shooting star, that means that there was a lot of people who wanted to sell up top there, though.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? You see where we're at. There was probably a lot of orders working here just to sell. Don't get me wrong. I think this might take a couple days before it, consolidates and picks itself up. But in the face of what's happening right now, I really think these companies are going to end up being winners if they can get their shit together and can actually launch a 5G network without using Chinese tech here. That's, a very unique value proposition for these companies. So keep that in mind, and I think we need to do. I personally definitely need to do some research into this because I did not think about this idea at all until the Sprint T-Mobile merger came out, and clearly everyone else is like, "Oh shit, we missed that idea," and then all these things started popping up. So they're all on that too. IPOs, lots of those coming out. The Beyond Meat thing, can't touch this with a 1,000-foot pole. Or even with real meat, but this thing's just nuts. Lyft also getting sued that they misled investors. This thing's just like muddling along, doing jack shit. I hope nobody's touched this thing either until it picks itself up. You see any W's here? The answer is no. I don't see any either. So until then, stay away. Uber, I think Uber also took it in the nuts here. This thing's kind of whatever. It is what it's doing. But I mean, I just don't understand these companies that are coming out. They don't make a profit. And, they got all this money shoved into them, and all of a sudden they go public. I don't know how long the lockup period is for their initial investors, but I assume after they saw the catastrophe of Lyft, they probably want to get out of this if they're out of the lockup. I mean, is this going to be a long-term winner? Probably, but at what price? Brian, I think you always say you want to look at about 50% of the IPO price. Do I have that right?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, really what we need to do is let's see if I can demonstrate how we do this. What we really want to do is see what the book value is of this thing. So let's see, we'll go over here and then we'll go get this Finviz. And you have your little Bloomberg terminal thing. I gotta get used to using that.
Oh yeah, let me
have that on here. But anyway, we'll just fire this up here. And what's the symbol? Just UBER?
UBER, yeah.
So right now, it's trading at. These guys are losing money, eh? I mean, that's the irony of it all, is they're not even making any money. So there's not even a book value here quoted, right? The book value per share says a loss of $16.15. I mean, this is no offense to the public, but this is absolute idiot investing.
I think you need to share your screen there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really saying much. But yeah, I mean, fundamentally, no, there's no reason to be even thinking about this thing. But it'd be interesting. What's the symbol on that meat stock?
B as in beyond, YND.
All right. So does this guy have any value? No, this guy's got, like, look at this, minus $52 book value. It's trading at only just a nice comfortable 100 times the cash that they have on books. They only got 90 cents a share in cash. Like, this is idiot investing. This has got disaster written all over it. But yeah, and the irony of it all is I was reading articles about this, and people are doing taste tests and stuff, and they're like, well, it tastes like remember you used to get those hamburgers in high school, that just they kind of taste like hamburger, but not really. So you put it all together, classic end of cycle, top of the market, and kind of sadly very similar to Bitcoin late 2017. In my humble opinion, if you really want to invest in these companies, you have to wait for weekly W's to start showing up, and it might take a year or two for these things to develop. Yeah, this is another one, that Pine Trust, didn't they? They got absolutely huge losses, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Everyone was really excited about this one. They're like, oh, Pinterest actually took off as an IPO, but now it's coming way back down again.
I think they reported that they were losing money.
Well, here's the thing, and this was an interesting commentary that I heard, and that is all of these companies, quote unquote, unicorn companies. Every time I hear that on CNBC, I gag a little bit and vomit in my mouth sometimes. That, they're just like, all these unicorn companies are rushing to go public because their advisors that are very well connected and understand, or supposedly understand, the market, see that there is an evaporation of liquidity happening right now. And as that evaporation continues to dry out the proverbial liquidity pool, these IPOs are going to miss the mark more and more often. If they don't do it now, they're actually going to end up being much worse than they are today. So they're all rushing to market to try to grab that liquidity.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, does that make them good investment ideas? No.
Hell no.
So, and what I see there on your chart, that looks like a big fat M that just came in there.
Yeah, that
And
one.
I hate to say it, but poor old Mr. Monks could get into a bit of trouble here too.
Well, I heard he was banned from tweeting.
The 17th time. But like you can see this story starting to unwind, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. This almost looks like, wow, this has really come off quite a bit, huh? Good.
Well, and I would look at like a weekly chart. Now, if anything, it's funny that I'm pounding the table about weekly W's in crypto. Same thing in stock market, people. Hell, that's probably even like a monthly top. And remember our buddy Stanley Druckenmiller, right? He said this is one of his biggest short positions he has on.
Good old
So,
Stanley.
if you don't listen to these people, unfortunately, it's and it sucks because I do know that we have a few people on the site that are super uber bullish of Tesla and they absolutely love this thing, but man, that looks like trouble to me. And the worst part about it is look at that profile. That profile looks very full, right? That's the definition of a full profile, which means that it's ready to explore a new trading range. And that's what it's doing. Like if you zoom out, go on like a monthly chart on that thing. I mean, it's ridiculous how far this thing has come.
Well, this is like a darling short for most of Wall Street. Like anyone who's got big money, they've been shorting this thing for like 5 months, and it's a running joke that they have no idea and cannot possibly fathom or understand why anyone would even buy this thing.
Look at that monthly bear div. Bam, in your face.
Wow, that's nasty.
Oh, look at your crackhead. Your crackhead just the party is over.
Yeah, that means they ran out and the dealer's out and the dealer's out and there's nothing to go around at all.
Everybody's all strung out now.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Somebody asked us to take a look at Blink. I think that used to be one of the ones you were looking at, right?
I got a free position on that. I love my free position, so I bought it, got out on a half on a double, and now I just have a free position on here. There's nothing really to do there.
Yeah, weekly's just kind of in a range. Looks a little toppy, but nothing internal.
Well, I would imagine as long as Mr. Monk is Munksk or whatever the hell his name is, as long as he's under pressure, these kind of names aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, 99. One more thing to look at.
Actually, you can see the little gap down there at about $1.60 or so. That's probably where it's going.
Oof. All right.
This is just a really good lesson. You better sell half on a double and get those free positions.
Yeah. So I had a short on financials a week and a half ago that I let go of, and I'm actually considering going back in again. I don't really have a good setup right now, but I think this thing's developing much in the way the rest of the market is. So it's almost like you pick one of these names, and if the stock market takes a dump, whatever you pick is going to take a dump. Like financials look especially vulnerable, but going into FOMC,
I think that might cool there is to can you do like two charts side by side and leave that financials on the left side, and then pull up your euro dollar spread chart on the right side, and see if those spreads started to point down just as those things were topping out there. Because I gotta sneak. I mean, what should happen here is financial stocks should rally when the Fed is raising interest rates, and the financials should start falling if the Fed's done raising rates, because it means the economy is too overheated. So it'd just be interesting to see if there's any correlation between that top in the financials and your euro dollar spread trade.
Kind of.
Yeah, there you go. So you can see, on that day when it tagged the top of that band, that's basically the top in the financials, eh? And then the spread has just been going straight down here, and the financials have been just following suit.
Yeah.
So that'd be actually a really cool little tell for you, little tool that you can keep in your tool belt.
Me likey.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've talked a lot of stock market. Of course, as usual, when I'm quarterbacking here, I keep the stock market talk way too long.
All All right, well, shall we head on over to crypto then?
Yeah, let's breeze through the news here. I don't know if anybody remembers that Bulgaria sort of seized a whole bunch of Bitcoins from a gang back in May of 2017. Well, they're sitting on a cool 200,000 Bitcoins. And it's funny, right? If you compare how many Bitcoins they're sitting on at present value, and you compare that to some of these,
that's more than their whole gross domestic product.
that's more than Britain has in gold reserves.
Oh, that's hilarious. Bulgaria.
Right?
We had a site member on, you remember years ago? I think he was actually in your class. He was from Bulgaria and he turned out to be a total crook.
Well, he might have been the guy that had these 200,000 Bitcoins, and that's why he disappeared.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that guy, I never once I never once heard his voice.
No, definitely not. I mean, he had scammer written all over him. Too bad.
Yeah, he might have been from the future. Anyway, so I thought this was an entertaining article to start off with. Bulgaria.
Did you watch the 60 Minutes article yesterday?
You know, I read the highlights. I was trying to watch the damn thing on my phone, but the CBS app doesn't work on mobile. So I was able to watch the first 2 minutes, and the commercial came on and locked me out. But I read, and saw, first of all, Charlie Shrem, I don't know what the hell happened to this guy. He's 29 years old, and I got to find this picture of him. Charlie Shrem, and what's that guy's name? Who does Anderson Cooper? This guy, and I don't like to make fun of the way people.
I think I posted the video in the lounge this morning. So.
Yeah, so did I too. There's a picture of the two of them. Oh, here it is. I mean, what is this guy wearing?
Yeah. That's hilarious.
I was like, come on, man. You're on 60 Minutes and you're wearing freaking flip-flops and like you just got off a boat.
And that's a pink shirt, right?
That's a pink shirt, and I don't know what's on it. A bunch of anchors. It's like, come on, Charlie. You're kind of the Bitcoin guy right now. And this, whatever. I mean, maybe he doesn't have someone telling him what he should be wearing. Poor guy. But it was an interesting piece. I read through it. I mean, I don't know if it gets anyone that much more interested in Bitcoin than there already are. But
I thought it was interesting. They figured that the guy who sold 10,000 Bitcoin for that pizza way back when, whatever his name was, that would be worth like $400 million now.
Yeah, that guy definitely throws up in his mouth every day. And it's not pizza.
Yeah.
All right. So there's your Bulgarian article, your Charlie Shrem. Just want to remind everyone, Bitcoin halvening is now 12 months away.
All right.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Crazy.
Time flies when you're having fun, eh?
Yeah, it does, exactly. I remember the last time this thing happened, it was like forever. So yeah, we have this to look forward to. The Litecoin halvening is happening, I believe, in August. Oh, look, there's this website. You can track it. Litecoin block half. Reward drop ETA date is August 6th, give or take a couple days, I would assume. So we're about 3 months away from that. And then the last here, why do I have that thing twice? Oh, some article about as the Iranian war escalates, that more Iranians are going to funnel into Bitcoin. Sure. The whole Chinese are funneling into Bitcoin.
Where's Riza? Riza's great on reporting what's going on inside Iran. I mean, if I understand it correctly, you could get like publicly executed if you buy crypto there.
That's horrifying.
Yeah, well, they're pretty intense over there.
Yeah, they are. I've definitely seen some horrible things come out. All right, so that's your news. I mean, I didn't see anything else particularly crazy. It seems like crypto is just on its way down for a consolidation after the last 2 weeks crazy run up. I saw something about BitConnect 2.0. Did you see something about that?
What did I see? I saw something in relation to BitConnect, and I was like really surprised that I saw that name again. Yeah. Oh, somebody was tweeting it?
Oh, this is like they're thinking about launching again.
Oh, God.
To resurrect the greatest crypto Ponzi ever. arrives for a second bite. A website and Twitter profile advertising the arrival of BitConnect 2.0 appeared in the last few days. The website shows a countdown to the rebirth of one of the worst cryptocurrency scams of all time. Twitter profile contains just 2 posts. One is a link to the new website, and the other is a Binance referral link with the directive buy now. Of course, there are no BitConnect tokens hosted on Binance. If we take a look at the domain registrar details for the new website, we see some strange particularities. I'm guessing someone's just fucking around with this. Whatever. It's like, come on, guys, really? People are sick. Okay, so that's, news highlights. Let's take a look at some tech. I mean, did you see anything else like newsworthy or fundamentally going on here? Or did I miss anything?
I've been out of the loop for the past little while, so don't really ask me. But there was something that I was asking about yesterday. I asked the sort of broiler chickens audience. What's going on with Tether? Can anybody actually report what's going on with those guys? Because I noticed that the spreads on Phoenix have come back in. So is Tether out of the doghouse now?
No, some Chinese billionaire basically came out and he started this movement for everyone to donate money to save Tether. And in addition, they started like a token sale where they raised like $1 billion or something ridiculous. So Tether's now fully funded and operational again.
Huh, interesting. All right.
Thank you. Yeah, Leo coin. There you go.
And just an FYI, I see Benjamin, you're over there on the YouTube page. I'm having a lot of requests for your cleaned up DI script. Benjamin and Sin have been working diligently on cleaning up that DI algo script. I mean, I love it. It's been producing absolutely beautiful signals recently. But Benjamin and Sin have been working together and made the script a lot more cleaned up. Benjamin, I don't know whether you're cool with it, but I don't mind posting that updated algo script in the library of your guys's, but I just sort of need your blessing to pass that out to the site people. So I just saw you over there on YouTube. So if maybe you want to PM me or something later on and we can talk about that, but I've had a lot of inquiries about it. So sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, it's cool. I mean, we got just the same technicals to talk about as we did yesterday.
Nothing's really changed much. If anything, I get the feeling that they brought the market right back up against the top end of the range on anticipation of that 60 Minutes show. And we had sort of talked a little bit in that broiler chicken show yesterday. You can see on the, I hate to say it, guys, but I really think these guys are driving the bus now. So you can see, I don't know whether I'm sharing my screen or not. I'm not really that good at this stuff. Remember that, guys. But they gapped the CME futures right up against the top end of the range, and then we've just been slowly melting down here. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was sort of like a buy the rumor. Let's see if we can get a whole bunch of the public to come in and buy Bitcoins on that. The 60 Minutes piece came out. It wasn't a disaster, so the price hasn't collapsed, but not a heck of a lot of follow through there. And then also too, I would just simply add, if the stock market's relatively weak and not really too happy, I find it hard to believe that Bitcoin could rally too much more. But only time will tell. But there isn't a heck of a lot of change what I'm seeing on my charts, and kind of like algo wise. I'd love to get another buy signal here, but right now we're just sort of sitting on the fence, just waiting.
You know what I don't like, Brian? I don't like how all these, what do we call them? The big superhero Twitterati, big name guys like Mike Novogratz, the Tom Lees of the world, those kind of guys are all coming out. Crypto winter is over. It's all back. We're never going to see $3,000 or $4,000 again. And it's like, you guys are the fucking professionals. And why are you coming out saying stuff like this? I mean, again, it seems like most of these guys that do this, they're almost exactly wrong on the opposite way. It's incredible. So I'd be real careful.
Have you heard much out of Charlie Lee lately?
No, I haven't heard about Charlie Lee. No, but.
No. Yeah, and I don't mean to be rude, but Mr. Novogratz, I haven't heard him actually make a correct call. So this is kind of like the macro voices guy who he introduces himself. I'm in the macro voices hedge fund manager, blah 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 blah, whatever the hell his name is, right? I mean, yeah, I suppose you could be a hedge fund manager, and as long as you're solvent, and then once you're insolvent, then there goes that. So I have yet to actually hear Mr. Novogratz actually make a public call and him actually be right. So yeah, I agree with you. And also too, remember, and this is a hard lesson for a lot of people in the market to learn, but seasonality, this is the top of the market. And so this is when you should be hearing everybody pounding the table about how wonderful everything is. And actually, how's his little stock doing? And actually, it's interesting. On a sort of side note, while I was away, I was working on a fun little spreadsheet project, and we're having a meeting tomorrow about this. So anybody who's interested in this weekly commodity trend survey that I've been running, I used to have this on my 1980s website. And it's such a cool little project we've been working on. Of course, it's not updated now, but anyway, we'll be talking about this tomorrow. But it was interesting under the CanSlim ideas. The only name that came up that was a bull was this NCTY. And I was curious, what the hell is NCTY? And ironically enough, they're a Chinese internet play. And I think they own like the exclusive rights to like China's World of Warcraft portal. But it was interesting to see that these guys were actually talking about how they're getting into blockchain. So this NCTY is actually another stock we can add to the sort of blockchain universe for those people that are interested in sort of building out a list of stocks that are internet or Bitcoin and crypto related. And if this thing goes in double bottoms here, you can see only 45 million shares out. 45% of the company is owned by insiders. Just stunning quarter over quarter and year over year earnings increases. Little concerned about this negative book value number here. I'm not quite sure I understand that.
Oh, that's the new thing.
The street target price is $3.50 on this thing. So it's another one to add to the crypto related stock basket. They just announced recently the 9 Limited that they're doing a big foray into crypto here. So if crypto does rally, I'm sure this thing's probably going to catch a little bit of a bid. But what I wanted to ask about was GLXY. Is that what it is? Galaxy.
Yeah, I brought up a chart here.
Oh, there you go. Galaxy Digital Holdings. So I was just curious to see what this thing's doing here.
Oh, if you check the FinViz, it'll say everything is owned by Mike Novogratz. There is no money.
This is a Canadian company, so I don't think that FinViz will even have it.
Oh, okay.
So it's weird how like I don't know whether you have any Americans down there, but on the hangout here, but it's remarkable. When I used to live down in the States, there were actually people that didn't even believe that Canada had electricity. I mean, it's shocking. You're just like, are you serious? So like this was down when I lived in California. So maybe that makes sense being that far south, but it's weird how they don't even see Canada exist. So this stock wouldn't even be on most Americans' radar screen. So anyway, I don't know. I look at that. I don't really get too excited. If we accept back into value, you can see where she has to go right back down to. So.
Oh, shit. You know what I missed? Tomorrow's the VanEck ETF decision.
Yeah, that's right. That was another thing that I was thinking about. And now I'm sharing Thomas's screen. I hope I'm doing that right. But yeah, tomorrow's supposed to be the big ETF decision. So that might be another reason why Bitcoin's caught a bit of a bid by the rumor. And in a weird sort of way, I think you can actually make the argument that, I think I showed you on that CME chart, right? Yeah, here's the CME chart. I mean, you could very easily see this market. I mean, this market could easily come down a good $2,000-$3,000 a Bitcoin here. So just be, especially with this announcement by the rumor sell the news. If this thing does come out and it's listed and there just isn't that much buying interest on that news that, all right, fine, we're going to list this damn thing. You might see that this is the end of this little rally here. So Shane's saying here in Canada provides a lot of electricity. Oh yeah. Twitter, Shane's giving us a Twitter link here. Shane, were you gonna do something here on today's show? Were you was it planned that you were gonna participate here today?
Yeah, I was gonna do a security thing for crypto and whatnot.
Oh, were you aware of that, Thomas?
I don't know. I said at the beginning of the show, I was like, I could have sworn someone was going to come on.
Oops. This is what happens when we don't have the mayor driving the bus. Are you going to be around through the week, Shane? Are you flexible, or is this the only day we have you?
Yeah, it's my only day that I'll be working the rest of the week.
All right. I really would love to. Can you summarize your thoughts in, I don't know, 10 minutes or so?
I can push through it. Yeah, no worries.
All right, Thomas, do you mind if we give Shane the floor here, or do you want to finish off with anything else you want to talk about before we release Shane?
Maybe just, maybe 1 minute of closing up here. We talked kind of Bitcoin dangerous territory, same thing with Ethereum. But, you and I were talking in the lounge last night about this Lumen, that weekly W that came in on XLM. I've got a 4-hour chart here, but this really caught my eye. And I don't know where I saw this, or if this just happened to pop up on my chart when I was scrolling through things. But I mean, this weekly W looks really interesting to me. The Finex doesn't have good data on this for whatever reason, but I was looking at this on, what's it called? Kraken or Poloniex, Kraken here. And you can see that, this big long weekly div came in and confirmed. And now we've got this finally a W, but these moving averages still have yet to cross. And if you go and look at the other names that did put in weekly Ws with divs, they took quite a long time to get going. So I really like this. I'm kind of hunting entries off of the lower time frames. I mean, is this something that's got your attention, or am I just salivating over nothing?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's kind of like before I left on that break, I said that if I was going to take a shot in crypto, I really liked XRP against the bottom end of the range here. And, 2.5 weeks ago, I went on my break. And that was when the price was right down here at the bottom end of the range. I sure hope I'm showing the right screen. And it had a really nice rally. So that's the irony of this silly game. And I suppose we have to figure out what exchange. Because the weird thing is on what the hell is it? It's Stellar, right? STL. Stellar. Yeah, there it is. So on Polo, it's STR. So you might want to.
So you're looking at it in terms of Bitcoin. I was looking at it.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I should be. I want to look at it versus USD. So you might want to pull up. Yeah, there we go. So there's the chart on Polo. And I like this kind of thinking because in essence you're just basically getting in off the original breakout. I like how you're thinking, and this is kind of thing where nobody's really that interested in this name right now. And, especially in this kind of market, that's actually what you kind of have to do is you have to sort of, think about things that people are not talking about right now.
Yeah, the real challenge to mentally try to understand is how would this behave if, say, tomorrow they deny the ETF and Bitcoin takes $1,000 or $2,000 dump. Does
Right.
Stellar follow suit and come all the way down? Is that the buying opportunity for this thing? Or
I think so. So,
yeah.
you can see the original bottom here on my screen. And our reload zones. So we're not allowed to be buyers up here anyway. And I think in the lounge last night, I had talked about 12, 11. It's probably an attractive area. So if you do get a precipitous dump on Bitcoins and stuff like that, I think that actually gives you, it affords you the opportunity to try and sneak in, 78.6 here is 0.091. And wicks and tails like to be eaten. So if you do get a precipitous dump against these lows, I think that's actually a very attractive idea. So yeah, I like how you're thinking. And of course, good money managers, you're thinking about buying stuff that people aren't talking about today, right? And if anything, I don't really hear too many people talking about Stellar. That weekly W is valid, and if we want to start hunting reload zones off of those W ranges, I think that's a really, I mean, nothing's guaranteed in this business. We all know that. But if you're going to take a shot in the market, taking a shot against weekly W lows is definitely smart thinking. But it's hard to do, like I said with that XRP. I mean, it was, when I mentioned that I was interested in that XRP against the lows, I didn't have a single person on the site go, oh, you know what? That does look really interesting.
I think that's because everyone inherently hates Ripple.
Yeah, and me, I mean, I'm just looking at the charts, right? So,
oh, come on, you wouldn't buy Bcash, would you?
Actually, all right, enough said. Fair enough. Touche. But I mean, the bottom line here is, basically bottom end of ranges. It's tough to force ourselves to be buyers against those levels. So, can we go in and buy XLM right here? No, I think that's dangerous. But a nice serious test, you see your POC there sitting at basically a dime. It'd be really interesting, like I said, maybe look at the Polo chart of STR or Stellar or whatever it's called there. See if there are any gaps or anything. You want to work some stinky bids and just basically risk against the low end of the range against that weekly W. That's not a bad idea at all, in my opinion. But it's very contrarian, very unpopular, going against the tide, if you will.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So why don't we leave it at that? Thank you so much, sir. If I understand, you're going to be away tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow and Wednesday, I think I'm going to be absent, but I should be around Thursday and Friday.
All right, cool. Shane, I'm sure you put some effort into what you wanted to share with us here today. So you've got the floor. Take your time. Handsome mug, of course, on your screen showing right now. Did you want a screen share? I don't know whether you wanted to show us. Do you want me to put on a particular screen?
Oh, I'm just getting that ready right now. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there you go. Look at that. Crypto asset security. All right. So I'm going to put myself on mute. You've got the floor. Thank you so much, Thomas. Great job as always. And tell us what's on your mind, Shane.
Yeah, I've been in space for a couple of years now, and I think a lot of us have fallen, have blundered on security ourselves, and a lot of us have lost crypto ourselves. So I just wanted to highlight some things that I always come across in the space, crypto-wise. A few things we're just going to talk about today. A quick breakdown: what a hacker looks for, passwords, emails, low level, high level, 2FA, this whole 9 yards. So let's get started. Let me see if I can pull some pictures for you guys. So let's understand how most people lose their crypto. A lot of times people get hacked, and more often not, hackers are just guys that just run scripts and codes. They're looking for the easiest way to harvest crypto or for data of any sort. What used to happen back in the day was hackers would just look for sensitive documents and information to sell to traders and other security and opposite business-minded people. This day and age, your information is pretty much crypto, and once an attacker has your private keys, they have your crypto. So if you're more security sound, you'll be fine. If you are one of those people on social media talking too much about Bitcoin and crypto, you probably have a target. Just be wary and just take some time to understand your security. A little bit about password management. Most of us in the space would like you to use new passwords for different sites. Try to use something strong. As you can see here in the picture, that's a really good example of a password. I wouldn't use that one per se because password is a pretty easy one to go with. Don't use your loved one's name. Don't use your birthday. Don't use your kid's birthday. And do use a password manager. I myself like using just a little black book, write my stuff down, keep it in a secure drawer or something like that. That's worked fine for me. But if you're more the automated type, check out a password manager. I think K-Bear also put up Dashlane. I haven't tried that myself, but I know KeePass is pretty neat too. Another aspect of password management is be wary about anything that uses the cloud as a backup method for your password. Just a little thing like that. What else? Electronic mail. So your email is pretty much your first line of authority. The first is how exchanges identify who you are, if you're actually the person behind that account. So I've seen a lot of folks in the space fall victims to cracked emails. People have used like crappy email services like Yahoo and whatnot, and I found that hackers have gotten into their emails and just circumvented their security, like saying they forgot their email or password to their exchange. So your email should be hand over fist, like your strongest protection. I would really consider maybe using a paid service for email, 2FA over an authentication app. So this would be Authy or Google Authenticator or something like that. Try not to use your phone number. We've seen a lot of folks being SIM swapped and whatnot. And I've seen recommendations of people using an email just for exchanges only. So if that email is compromised, you can take you can forward emails to a personal address and make things work easier. A bit of two-factor authentication. I'd say in this space, in this day and age, 2FA is a must. What you're really keen on is just a second layer of protection. Again, don't use your phone number as a 2FA method. I've seen a lot of folks in this space have their SIM swapped, phones taken over and whatnot. It's kind of rampant in the space, especially folks who develop and who are very active in the cryptocurrency scene. I usually recommend my clients to use Authy over Google Authenticator. Authy gives you a sort of cloud backup of your 2FA keys, except Authy does not keep the password, your final recovered password, to that backup. You can put that across your devices and whatnot. Google Authenticator can be a bit cumbersome, because if you do lose that Android device or that phone or whatever you're using, you will find that you can't back those up. You just don't have access to them. There's usually about a 12 character phrase that you can use for recovery. So I would, when you first set up your 2FA on an exchange or something like that. So it'd be a good idea to write those down in a little black book as well. And for me, I like to keep my 2FA device separate from my daily use phone. But just other things to think about when you're using 2FA. So the Internet of Things. There's been a lot of brute force attempts and takeover attempts with internet devices, such as your Fitbit, such as cameras at home, and to fridges and everything else. Ideally, you should be able to survey your house or your place to see what is connected, what isn't connected, and what is really needed, what isn't. I like to segregate my guests onto a different router, so that their devices don't interact with my devices. It really comes down to looking at your Internet of Things devices and seeing if there is any default admin passwords that you should be changing. And at the end of the day, see if there's a firmware update the devices regularly, see what the manufacturer is saying about that device. It could just be running something that's absolutely bunk and it's just Chinese garbage. All right, a little bit about hardware wallets. Excuse me. A hardware wallet is something that you should be able to power down and just leave offline for a long period of time. A lot of folks, myself included, recommend a Trezor, a NanoLedger, a KeepKey. BitFi, I haven't used that much. I'm a little bit indifferent about that. That's McAfee's product. I've also told my clients just to use an Android device that can have a removable battery. That's worked really well as a cold wallet as well. Usually just tell them to use Coinomi to back that up. In any sense, most of the devices ask you to write down a 12-word seed. So this means don't text it to yourself, don't email it to yourself, don't take a picture of it. The idea is to make that 12-word seed analog so it's inaccessible to anything online. And a lot of these devices do require some updates, some firmware updates and stuff like that. So to keep up with that. When it comes to paper wallets, I found that, and I'll just show everyone what a paper wallet looks like. I found that when you have to create one of these suckers, you end up having to secure that device that you print that off of, because at the end of the day, your public key and private key are shared in the same piece of paper. So do your own research when you use a paper wallet, but I usually don't advise it that much.
Does anybody right now taking a screenshot of that? I think there's any coin. Do you remember that story from back in 2013 when a guy on a morning show held up his little code thing there, and somebody stole the Bitcoins while he was talking?
Yeah, it took about like 20 seconds for someone to swipe that paper wallet. Yeah, absolutely. It was gone.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's great. So examples of hardware wallets. That's a Trezor. That's a Ledger Nano right there. And that's just an example phone that I've shown my clients how to use and whatnot. And out of these devices, they're all going to need some time to get.
We should be showing Shane's screen. I think you have to click on Shane's window.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah, out of these devices, you're gonna have to practice using them. I would just, get used to your device if you bought a hardware wallet, or get used to how everything works. This over here in the top right corner is CryptoSteel, or Billfold. It's kind of a neat way of storing your 12-word seed. It's all metal. Get buried in the backyard or something like that, wherever you want to do. So it's better than a paper wallet, or and the 12-word seed is one of the most secure ways to store your crypto assets. Hot wallets. So a hot wallet is something that you would use when you want to spend your Bitcoin. You want to move your crypto asset or your Bitcoin from a cold wallet to a hot wallet, and then from there you'd spend or move your crypto from there on in. Usually something you use on your daily driver device, like your phone. And again, back up your 12-word seed. Here's a little example of what a 12-word seed looks like. So again, anyone who wants to see if this wallet holds any crypto, you're more than welcome to recover this over a Coinomi wallet. But yeah, try the backup procedure and test that it works. I found, this goes back to my Jaxx experience. I had a nightmare issue with Jaxx, and I thought I lost maybe half of my Bitcoin stash because Jaxx wasn't populating all my transactions properly, and it really freaked me out. So I kind of dumped Jaxx from there on in. So just get used to the process here, because at the end of the day, you may have to do this. Your phone might crap out, your hardware wallet might crap out, and you may end up having to do this yourself, or pulling your hair out because you haven't done it before. A few other notes when you're spending your crypto. I'd say QR scan, copy, paste the address. And I've seen malware that, oops, that's my time.
Somebody's trying to hack you.
Trying to time myself, give myself 10 minutes. Look like I'm going past 10 minutes. But yeah, I would, when you're copying and pasting the address, just double check the address itself. I usually recommend everyone just check the first 4, the last 4, and pick somewhere in the middle of the address to make sure it's the same. There were stories of people copying, pasting the address, and there was a malware that just pretty much detected that it was a Bitcoin address. Then if there went 5 Bitcoin sent somewhere else when it was supposed to be sent to a friend. So a little bit of oversight, but yeah. A few wallets I'd recommend a lot of people to use: Coinomi, Bread Wallet, Samurai, and Mycelium on mobile. Samurai is really neat. You can really be under the radar with it. Coinomi allows for, I say, over 500 different crypto assets, so a lot of variety. For desktop, I use Exodus. Electrum Coinomi also has a desktop wallet. Again, I consider a desktop wallet a hot wallet just because unless you have a dedicated laptop for crypto storage, which most people don't really do, that computer is going to be always online. And do your own research and just kind of try it out and make sure things are working okay. Social media. The idea of social media and what it does for us is amazing, both horrifying at the same time. I would be very wary about talking about crypto assets, as in your personal stash. You don't want to be going, I just made $1 million in Bitcoin and paint a target on your back. That's not how this works. That's not really fair. Talk in percentages, not amounts. Most people will just recommend you talking this way in stock markets too. Be aware of free chat rooms. Again, there's a lot of nefarious behavior out there. Chat rooms are free chat rooms are interesting ways just to gauge people and what's been going on in the market, and see how knowledgeable the market is and how lax the market is, right?
I love Seward's line. He goes, if you're not paying for a product, you probably are the product.
That's really, really good. Yeah, I like that. That's good. Phishing attempts. I think we all heard about the Nigerian prince story. So ideally, scams are pretty easy to spot, but a lot of people fall for them. We've had this one in Canada where people were asked to pay their overdue taxes in Bitcoin, which was kind of strange, but it worked. And a lot of folks were going to ATMs, buying Bitcoin, sending them out to the CRA, and that doesn't happen. Most of the time, phishing attempts are just plays on your lack of experience or your lack of intellect. And at the end of the day, if it's too good to be true, BitConnect, it probably is. Recovery and backup. So the idea here is just get used to the recovery and backup process of these devices and of your crypto assets. A lot of things happen over time. I've lost a fair bit of crypto in this space, and it's part of my security plan. I've lost 10 Bitcoin on Mt. Gox. I didn't back up hardware wallets and lost stuff crypto that way. So you may burn some crypto in this space. This will happen once in a while, but as long as you keep up on top of this, you should be able to figure this out. Like I said, create and practice a recovery plan. Tell a loved one how they can recover a password or a wallet just in case you need something done quickly and easily. And for a total unforeseen situation, like someone passing away, I would really consider CryptoWhale. There's also an interesting product from these guys from Final Message. It's a dead man switch, and what happens is an email will be sent out with the appropriate ways to recover a crypto wallet, just in case something happens to you. At the end of the day, you should be thinking about a security plan. Ideally, this should keep you up to date with your security and some risks in the space. Hopefully, by the time you create one of these plans, a lot of this stuff becomes second nature, and you just keep on at it. I'd say a lot of folks here in TRI are pretty top-notch in IT security, so talk to some of the guys in the space. I'm not a security expert. I just like to break things. That's just my way of figuring out security. But the same is through and through. Just schedule and upkeep of devices, update your software, and keep your keys safe. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole of it. Not So Fast has done a nice little summary of security. So I'd say look at his article on Steemit. And this is Final Message. Take a look at that product. Again, it's worth looking at what happens if something bad happens to you. And here's an old document of all the stuff TRI has put together for other software security and crypto security. The last time I did this, the next day we had a MyEther wallet hack. So hopefully nothing happens tomorrow. But yes.
Is that an omen?
Yeah, well, hope not.
All right. And is this a slide deck that you're going to share with the community?
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
somebody wanted to review this, could they reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll gladly pass this around. This can be in the description of the
All right, Alex B there said you could send the link to him and he'll add it. So that would be awesome. Thank you, Alex. Totally
That's
appreciate
great.
it.
Awesome.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much for that presentation, Shane. Looks like you put a bit of effort into it, so I'm glad we were able to give you the time to walk through it. And some really cool cat pictures as well. So, did you hear that famous internet kitty, Grumpy Cat, I think it was, passed away?
Yeah, he died a few days ago. A few weeks ago. That was a shame. I was looking up for some cat pictures for the presentation. I'm like, oh, Grumpy Cat's died. Aw.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Shane's got a special place in his heart for kitties. So, all right. Thank you very much, Unicorn Wall ST. I see Shane. Sjord has rejoined us here. Hope you had a good dinner there, Sjord. So why don't we leave it at that for today? Great job, everybody. Excellent report from you, Sjord. Thank you so much, Thomas, as always. Thank you, Shane, for your awesome presentation. I think it's 10:35 now. As we said, probably we should be cognizant of the fact that this ETF decision's coming down the pike here tomorrow. So don't be shocked if this turns into a buy the rumor, sell the news scenario. And of course, as I sort of said in yesterday's broadcast, and if we think back to 2015 bottom, we'll know that the bottom is in if we actually check this weekly double bottom and it holds and we start working our way back up. So kind of like that conversation about Stellar Lumen. If you are interested in taking a shot on Bitcoin against the lows here, hopefully it's part of your plan. Not a bad idea to keep an eye out for reload zones. So right now that's sitting between about 4,200 to 5,100 here on these CME futures. And you can see how the line in the sand, 78.6, lines up with that original double bottom. So we'll meet everybody back again first thing tomorrow morning. Hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Should be an interesting day tomorrow with this ETF decision. Is there anything else you wanted to add in closing here, Shane? Or are you basically, do you want to say goodbye to everybody? I don't know. It's up to you.
Goodbye, meows, and protect your bags, meows.
Meow, meow. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have yourselves a great rest of your day. Awesome contribution by everybody in the community. 1 + 1 = 3. And Shane's in the lounge quite often. So if you happen to have any questions, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to try and help answer those. So the only thing left for good old Brian to say at this point is a big bye for now. Meow.